Hello, I'm Ron Miscavige, and this is another episode of Storytime. And I am your host and storyteller. And I'm going to read you a story out of a book today called True Confessions of a Kid, which is a book I wrote some years ago. And there's also another one I'll be reading stories out of, and this is called Hideouts for Midgets on the Lam. If you're interested, by the way, you could go to my website, therealronmiscavige.com, and you can see that these books are for sale there if you'd care to get a copy for yourself. At any rate, today I'm going to read you a story called Kessler's Clambake. Here's the story. In a good old summertime, for some reason when we went to Kessler's Clambake, it was always a beautiful summer day. It never rained, wasn't too hot, not too humid, just a great summer day. Kessler's was a large road construction company, and at that time was the largest road construction company in the entire state of Pennsylvania. The connection to our family was that they needed workman's compensation insurance, and my brother and dad, with their insurance brokerage at the time, provided them with that service. Therefore, we were part of their family. Their clambake was a big deal as far as I can remember. It took place in the country, over the mountain from my town, in a farm area. It was a real pleasure moment for me. They had clams by the garbage can full, roast beef sandwiches, pork sandwiches, corn on the cob, root beer, and anything you could think of in the way of staple food. It was where I got the datum that sweet potatoes were really an excellent food, full of vitamins, etc. That's what one of the cooks told me. Probably baloney, but I believed him because he looked like he was talking about. It looks like he knew what he was talking about. This was my dad's day to entertain everyone at the Clambake. As a note, a tremendous amount of skeet shooting took place. This went on all day. Pretty good shooters, too. Dogs barking as the guns went off. Not quite in the game, but you could tell they loved being there, too. Now to the point of this story. My dad played accordion. He had me play a bass drum and a cymbal to complete his quote-unquote band. I couldn't think of any more degrading thing to do since it required an IQ of 0 to keep the beat. 3/4, 2/4, big deal. But here's what happened. I'm sitting there with my father and he is playing the accordion. He's already 3 sheets to the wind gone. Just as a note, my old man would get drunk on 3 beers. If he drank 6, I had to go out to the car when he got home and drive the car in the garage. Otherwise, he would drive the car right through the other end. And then he would crawl up the stairs to go to bed. Back to Kessler's Clambake. I'm sitting there keeping time. Hit the bass drum on 1 and the cymbal 2 or 3, and that was how it went. To explain how this went, there was a cymbal mounted on top of the bass drum, and you held another cymbal in your hand. You would sit there with the bass drum between your legs, and if you were standing, it would hang from a loop of canvas webbing around your neck. So you would hit the bass drum with the beater with one hand, and then hit the cymbal on top of the second and third beat with your other hand. I guess the only way it could have been more degrading is if I had to wear shorts when I was performing. So I'm sitting there and a guy comes over and sits next to me. He watches me for a little bit and says, "Hey kid, can I have a try at it?" At that point a bell rang in my head and I said, "Nah, I don't think you could do it." He said, "You bet I could." I said, "Hey, this is not as easy as it looks." He watched me for a little while. Finally he said, "I'll give you a quarter if you let me do it." At which point I said, "Okay, but just for a little while." This happened 2 more times and my standard rate was 25 cents, which they gladly paid and I gladly accepted. Tom Sawyer would have been proud of me if he were there that day. This is not the end of the story. Toward the end of the afternoon, my old man was completely drunk to the point of not even being able to play the accordion at all. So now he has to drive us home. My mother doesn't know how to drive, so her driving us home is not an option. Even in his completely inebriated state, there was still that thought that he had to drive his family home, and his handling to get sober was this. Get ready, this is a 10. He found a willow tree and grabbed hold of some branches that hung pretty low. So with his arms overhead, he hung onto the branches, steadied his feet in one place, and started swinging his body in a loop, much as you would rock a baby in a cradle, but this was done at about a 45-degree angle. I guess the best way to describe this was if you could loop your body with the outside form of a huge football. That's what he did. He kept this up for about 10 minutes while we watched. He gave it up, and then we all got in the car, speechless. I sat up front, and my mother and 2 sisters sat in the back. How we got home alive that day was more of a mystery than turning water into wine or having a dead person step out of a casket at the viewing and start dancing. He just drove straight home, went right through stop signs as we watched in horror, knowing full well our lives could end at any moment, running into a freight train or getting T-boned by another drunk. But we made it home. As usual, he crawled up the stairs and went to bed. We didn't say anything to each other, but I think we all thought, it's a good thing Kesslers didn't have a Clambake every day. We just couldn't take it. End of story. That's today's story, and sometimes when I read these are all true stories. I think to myself, did this thing actually take place? Yes, it did. These are all true stories except one story in here, and I tell you which one it is. So anyway, that's today's story time. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoy getting a little break from your everyday activities by watching these. If you could do me a favor, I would appreciate it very much. And that is, could you share this with as many people as possible? And of course, become a subscriber. And if you'd like, you can become a patron. Just go to my website, therealronmiscavige.com. But mainly, let's get this website up to like 100,000. I think this would be great because people could watch this, just take a little break from their everyday activities, relax, take some of the stress out of their lives. At the same time, maybe watch a life lesson, which is also part of my series, or maybe watch one of the interviews I do. At any rate, that's today's story time. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to telling you more in the future where you can just sit back and relax and enjoy a little different time for that day. So, I am Ron Miscavige, your host and storyteller. This is Story Time. I will see you on the next story. Bye-bye for now.